Hey everybody, I decided to come down and hang out with my friends today a little bit, and they like some short stories that I write. So I always try it out with them. So let's see what Buddy and Johnny and BB think of this story. Here we go. It's about my maternal grandmother, and it's called Love May Be Blind, but the Neighbors Ain't. As I slowed down my Volkswagen Beetle to turn into grandmother's driveway, I could see the living room light on and knew she was still up. It was a Friday night, and I was trying to make my 11 o'clock curfew. Grandmother greeted me with a glass of sweet tea as I came through the door. I figured she wanted to talk to me about something, and I wondered what about. I was home on time and hadn't gotten into any mischief, that is, that I was aware of. She gestured for me to join her at the table, and she put leftovers from supper in front of me. As a matter of fact, we'd had these leftovers for 2 nights in a row, as I politely pointed out after we'd asked yet another blessing for this food. Grandmother, we've asked a blessing on this food 3 times already, I laughed. She quickly replied, well, honey, then it makes it the best blessed food in town. There was no arguing with that, although I suspected that even God was getting tired of hearing about these leftovers by now. She sure took care of my 2 brothers and me. Too good a care sometime. Like now, when she seemed to know my business. I thanked her as she set the turnip greens and cornbread on the table for me. I began eating as I waited for her to voice whatever was on her mind, and I could only surmise what that might be. I was aware of her watching me as I ate. I guess at this point, I should preface her ability to keep up with my comings and goings with the fact that Mama was a deputy sheriff, and all the other deputies helped her keep tabs on me. And it was already hard enough to keep your business private in this small, sleepy South Georgia town. After letting me finish most of my food, in the catbird seat, I might add, she began, honey, did you have a date tonight? Yes, ma'am, I did, I replied casually. Uh-oh. I'd been to see a girl that she dismissed as being too loose, which is exactly why I'd been to see her. I knew that she knew. I kept chewing and waiting. Was it the Richmond girl, she persisted? I couldn't lie to grandmother and knew it wouldn't provide a reprieve even if I did. She already knew, so it was a rather rhetorical question anyway. One meant to establish my honesty before she continued. Since she was fair, she always allowed me to express myself so long as it was done in a respectful manner. She always listened when I needed to talk, but at the same time, she talked when I needed to listen. Fair enough. I was going to plead my case. Grandmother, you know her family lives way back on the farm, so no one saw me. They have very few neighbors anyway, I continued. I wondered how she'd found out since I'd been so very discreet. Was it one of Mom's friends? Grandmother, I know you don't approve of her, but I may be falling in love with her. Then I added, and as they say, love is blind. There, that should do it, I thought. Her response left nothing more to be said. Well, honey, love may be blind, but the neighbors ain't, she said. Touché, grandmother, touché. I began playing in the school marching band and the concert band in the 6th grade. I usually played the snare drum, which is the main part in a drum section. But occasionally someone didn't show up and I'd have to play their part at the band director's request. I'd do it, but I didn't like it. The same thing happened as I sang in the glee club. I'd usually sing the first tenor part, but a few no-shows at a concert usually relegated me to a lesser part. This was beginning to get old, and one day grandmother and I discussed the matter over a glass of iced tea. I talked while she listened, then she talked while I listened. Honey, she began, don't you already know your parts? You've sung them over and over. Yes, ma'am. I know my parts inside and out, backward and forward. Music was one of the few things that came naturally to me for some reason. If the truth be known, I probably wouldn't have done it if it wasn't natural for me. I was tired of trying and failing at most things in life. Well, Grandmother concluded, it seems to me that doing the same old things all the time stunts your growth and puts you in a rut. And a rut ain't nothing but a grave with both ends kicked out, she concluded. She had a way with words. I went on to learn every male part in the glee club and every percussion instrument in the band. I played all through college and the Army and then moved west to play the famous Las Vegas Strip. I got to perform in some of the most beautiful hotels in the world over the 9 years that I lived there, partially due to Grandmother's sage advice. And I find myself restless even to this day if I feel like I'm in a rut as I hear her words ringing in my head. Music always helped me avoid those ruts, since there was always one more song to learn. I remember one concert in high school where I got to play several instruments. Our school had recently purchased 2 timpanis, or kettle drums, and I was going to get to break them in that night. The gym was packed as we began 2001 Space Odyssey, a theme from Thus Spake Zarathustra. I thought even the name was cool. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard this song, but there's a thunderous kettle drum solo in it. I really got into that part as we came to it. Our little town wasn't used to timpanis, however, so as I finished the part and looked up, I felt they hadn't liked it, and I'd run them off. I later found out they all thought they'd heard real thunder and had gone to check the windows on their cars. The people straggled back into the gym, and we began our last number for the evening. I got to play the drum set on this one. It was a tune called Rough Riders, and it was filled with drum rudiments. I thought I'd nailed it as I hit the crash cymbal to end the song. I guess in my haste to set up the drums, I'd neglected to put the wing nut on that holds the cymbal securely to the stand. It left its perch, hit the floor, and began a slow roll on its side around the gym floor. First in wide circles, then smaller ones until it came clanging to a stop, definitely ending the song in a big way. I hung my head in embarrassment as I began hearing the sound of applause. It grew and grew, continuing until I stood up and gave the crowd a bow. I'll never forget the sound of 1,000 people cheering me on as they helped me make light of my mishap. When my grandfather was diagnosed with lung cancer, Grandmother went into full battle mode. She vowed they would fight this unseen enemy together. She attended to his every need as his health slowly declined. He became more childlike daily as the disease progressed and overtook him. One day when we were alone, I commented on this to her. She offered, "Honey, it's like that for some at the end, if we live long enough to get old. Once a man, twice a child." "Ever heard that one?" she asked. "I have now," I answered. The doctors suggested cobalt treatments to slow the cancer's growth. I think they were just grasping at straws, and I knew we couldn't afford the treatments anyhow. The government had to pick up the bill, or the hospital wrote it off. I don't know. I do know that Grandmother vowed to pay back every cent with her labor. She volunteered at the hospital for the rest of her life to pay a debt she felt she owed. That's just how she was. Granddad finally lost his battle in spite of the treatments. He was a brave man, but there at the end I could see apprehension in his eyes. I thought back to the times I'd want to go somewhere with him, and he'd say no. I'd ask where he was going. He'd say, "To see a man about a dog." This meant 2 things. Number 1, you ain't going, and number 2, don't ask your grandmother. These were absolutes. Thank y'all for that. Just blow your nose all over me. Grandmother always supported him in this and told us to go play. We weren't going. This negated the game of divide and conquer, so we eventually stopped playing it. They always had each other's backs. That's just the way it was in those days. Granddad was 65 years old when he passed on, and Grandmother went on to live another 35 years. To me, She showed a lot of resilience as she carried on after losing her life partner, with whom she'd shared 45 years and 3 children. She faithfully attended church practically every time the doors were open, and Billy Graham still received a portion of her Social Security check. Her life went on, and she volunteered at the local hospital to repay the cost of Granddad's cobalt treatments for as long as her health would allow. Grandmother believed in paying her debts. It broke my heart to see her health decline to the point of feeling like she was in people's way all the time. She made the rounds, living with each of her children for a time. Then she went to assisted living, and finally a nursing home. She folded laundry and occasionally worked the front desk, trying to earn her keep there as well. That's just how she was. That February day, Grandmother left this earthly existence. It seems I went numb. Most everything about her funeral remains a blur to this day. I do remember one of my cousins and I both smelled the fragrance of Grandmother's favorite flower as we were taking her to her final resting place, even though no flowers were blooming this early in the season in South Georgia. I knew a part of me was leaving with her that day, and even now, when I visit her grave and hear a lawnmower, I wonder if she's working to earn her keep. And I just can't help but glance around to see. On this particular visit, I am overwhelmed by a prevailing thought as I look down at her gravesite. It came as an epiphany of sorts. I kept looking at the dates on her tombstone, declaring when she was born and when she died. I knew there was more to her life than just those 2 events. Suddenly, a rhyme came into my head. When she was born and when she died is plain for all to see, but it was that dash in the middle that made all the difference to me. It was suddenly clear. We are all born and we all die. But by the way we choose to live out that dash in the middle, we may make all the difference in another person's life, like Grandmother did in mine. And I hope you enjoyed that story. I think my buddies did, and I hope you have a wonderful day and visit our YouTube channel more often. Thank you.